It was an extraordinary leak to Axios, a White House source providing 3 months of the president's private schedule, 60% of which was devoted to so-called executive time. And that really set off the anti-Trump pundits.
Either way, the truth bomb has been detonated. Donald Trump doesn't do much of anything as president.
It's almost mind-boggling to see in black and white that the president spends most of his time not doing his job.
Buck Sexton, one, what does it say that somebody who works at the White House leaked this to Axios? And two, the liberal pundits going, oh, see, he's lazy, he sits around watching TV, he doesn't do anything.
Well, it shows that there are people in the White House and with access to the president's schedule that he can't trust. So, you know, there are people who are obviously out to get him, and I think that once again, is problematic for the whole country. And then when you look at what the pundits are saying, they have no idea. All they're doing is parading their Trump derangement syndrome. They don't know what goes on. They don't know enough about the scheduling process to know what they don't know, which is that he could be on the phone, he could be doing this. There are meetings that aren't on the schedule. Yeah. But they just look at an opportunity to trash the president because that's what their viewers want to see, even if it's ignorant.
Jessica Tarlov, how can liberal pundits say Trump is wrecking the country and he's a threat to Western civilization, but at the same time, he sits around and doesn't do much?
He's very powerful when he's at rest. I don't know. I think that people did take this too far. I think that the president does have an issue with people in his orbit and not being able to trust them. And this is one that we've seen consistently since he entered office at all levels and in all departments. Hopefully he can get some better people or people who are more interested in working for him and for the betterment of the country in there. But yeah, it was just a bit of fun to say, see, when he's live tweeting cable news, he actually is just sitting there watching cable news.
I don't think the average American cares how many meetings he has, but there was another off-the-record luncheon with network anchors this week, and there was one a few weeks ago. That one leaked. This one leaked, and the president was reported to have said, off the record, he called Joe Biden dumb. He called Chuck Schumer a nasty SOB. He criticized the late John McCain. Was this a betrayal by somebody in that room who agreed to the off-the-record ground rules?
It absolutely was, but it serves two important purposes for the president. One is that it shows, once again, that journalists are willing to discard the ethics that they pretend to care about when it comes to this president. We've seen that time and time again. And I think that's good because the American people now know we're never getting the old media back of, oh, there's this nonpartisan, neutral national political press corps. That's a joke, and that's never coming back. So that's a good thing. And the other thing is he gets to say stuff that I think the president really wants to say, and it gets out there, and it's like it's not his fault, but we get to hear it anyway.
You anticipated my question to Jessica, which is, first of all, I don't have any problem with the New York Times reporting this, but whoever was in the room, obviously somebody did violate that agreement. But the president, having been burned once at an off-the-record luncheon with anchors, I suspect he's not all that upset, and indeed suspected that this might have gotten out.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, these were just iterations of things that he has already said publicly. He's been feuding with the McCain family for years. We know it's Crying Chuck, and he has nicknames for everybody. So yes, it wasn't new information. His base loves it. I see on Twitter all the time.
But Jessica, it came a few hours before he gave this speech to the country and to the Congress about unity and bipartisanship.
Yeah, but I was listening to your earlier panel about it and what Mo Alithi was saying, and no one believed that that was really genuine. I mean, a couple days later, we have his attacks on Elizabeth Warren and, talking about the Trail of Tears, and this president calling for unity and saying that we should get past revenge politics. No one is buying it, even the people in his own orbit, and I understand that, he got his applause lines for that, but that wasn't going to last long.
Just briefly, Buck, but the president, it's a two-way street. I mean, Democrats beat up on him every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the president is keeping in place all of his rights to fight back, and I think that what you see here is the president, I think his outreach is in earnest. He just realizes that the other side's not going to meet him halfway, and he's not going to put his fire away until they do.
Or maybe he was just having a really good time talking to the anchors, who I'm sure he loves so much. All right, Buck Sexton, Jessica Tarlov in New York. Thanks so much.
With border funding battle, President Trump taking the debate over immigration right to the border in El Paso, Texas tonight. This comes 4 days before a congressional deadline to come to a deal on border security, and the White House is not backing down. During the conversation this morning, PwC partner Mitch Rochelle here, along with pollster and the president of Noslansky and partners, Lee Carter. Great to see you guys.
Great to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. And Deirdre, we're happy you're here this morning as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yesterday, Lindsey Graham came on the show and on Sunday Morning Futures on Fox News and basically said the new wrinkle is that the Democrats are saying we won't give you another dime in border wall funding for the border wall unless there is a decline in the number of beds at ICE detention centers. So for serious offenders, What are your thoughts?
I'm wondering if this is a backdoor way of trying to de-escalate or decommission ICE to some degree, because ICE has become very politicized amongst some of the new Democrats. And I'm just wondering if that's the end game here, because it just doesn't make sense on the surface if it makes more potentially violent criminals out on the street.
Right. I mean, violent criminals.
So why would you do it unless there's sort of an end game to it?
Well, I think there's also something symbolic about it. And to me, the Democrats are really trying to make this all about a humanitarian issue, saying that we've got to be kind to people, we've got to be more generous to folks. And so what they're saying is if we take the beds away, we're not going to treat people as poorly, we're not going to hold them as long. And I think that's what they're trying to say is if we do this wall, we're going to do it in a humanitarian way. I'm not sure that this is a smart strategy or not, but I think that's what they're trying to do.
There is so much, I would say, just political maneuvering with it. I mean, and we know that Democrats have even backed a wall, but just not being called a wall, right? And we got into this whole, are they really metal slats? Right. Is it a wall? And I actually thought there was progress being made, nothing against our fine president, but then he tweeted out a wall is a wall, I'm going to call it a wall. And I was like, no, because we were so close. So I think it's really about the messaging. I am assuming behind the walls and behind the doors, people are figuring it out.
And I know you've done dials. I want to talk about that, but because former Democratic Congressman, 2020 presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke is also going to be in El Paso, Texas tonight. He's doing a dueling rally against the president. O'Rourke tweeted this: "We need everyone to join us tomorrow evening in El Paso as we celebrate our community. The country will be watching, and it falls on all of us to tell the true story about the border." You know, I feel like after the State of the Union, Lee, the tone changed a bit. You even had Nancy Pelosi saying, well, I'm going to, take the advice of the committee chair. What did you see as a result of the State of the Union? You did dials on the State of the Union.
No, the State of the Union, the president, that was one of his finest moments. What's very interesting, too, is the Democrat response did very well. Usually, the response falls flat. Nobody really changes their mind based on anything. Independents and Democrats really liked the response of the Democrats, so I think it was a big night for everyone. Now, going into this, seeing how Beto O'Rourke is handling this, it's a different way of handling the president, right? Because we've seen a lot of people try to, meet him where he is. They try to take him down, act more like the president. Beto O'Rourke is very, very popular, and so this is going to. He's a very grassroots candidate. He has a lot of excitement when he goes out and talks on the road. So I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out. It could end up being a total bust, though. I mean, it's a huge risk.
They're going to be a mile away. President Trump with his rally and Beto O'Rourke.
But it was aggressive scheduling, right, on the part of O'Rourke, right? Oh, the president's going to be there. I'm going to show up too.
Right. That's very aggressive.
For O'Rourke, it's clearly a campaign stop.
Yeah.
For the president, the question is it a campaign stop? And is O'Rourke sort of baiting him into starting his campaign? So it'll be very interesting.
Well, this was his campaign promise, build the wall. He's trying to take the messaging right to the border in Texas. All right, we'll keep watching that.
Before they take over the world, many experts say they will take over your job. That's right, according to my next guest. It's happening so fast, there's absolutely nothing that can be done. But he has a solution for the best way humans can live and thrive when artificial intelligence and robots do all of the thinking. Joining me now, author of the book, Driver in a Driverless Car, and Carnegie Mellon University Distinguished Fellow and Professor Vivek Wadhwa. Thanks for joining us. Of course, this is a topic that gets more scrutiny and intensity every day. A piece on 60 Minutes. We know Elon Musk has warned against it. We know Stephen Hawking's warned against it. And I always refer back to this famous Oxford report. It was huge. Oxford University saying at least 47% of all jobs in America are at risk. What are your thoughts?
Charles, that's an underestimate. Let's look forward a little bit. In the next 2 or 3 years, on our interstate highways, we're going to have trucks that drive themselves. The same time period, we're going to have Ubers that don't have human drivers in them. And then we're going to start going to supermarkets in which everything is automated, that you're going to go to the checkout and there won't be a cashier there because it'll scan what you have as you take it off the shelf and automatically bill you. And then you're going to have drones that deliver not only your pizza, but your morning latte and your packages. And then in the next 5 or 7 years, we're going to have digital assistants on our phones that are our doctors that monitor us 24/7 and give us medical advice. Almost every profession is going to be automated, and the number of human beings doing it is going to be much less over the next 5 to 10 years or so. So it's going to be, dramatic, traumatic, amazing, all at the same time. And this happens in the next 5, 10, 15 years or so.
You know, we know the story of King Lud, if you will, but also the story of William Lee, who invented the stocking frame knitting machine in 1589. He goes to Queen Elizabeth I, does a demonstration, thinking that she would award him a patent. Instead, she's so frightened of what she's seeing, saying that it would turn her constituents into peasants, she banishes him. He takes his technology to France. What does a government do in a situation like this when politicians promise us jobs and you're telling us we're going to lose millions of them over the next 5 years?
Well, there's good news here in the short term. In the next 5, 10 years, we're going to be creating jobs. We're going to have an economic boom in America like never before, because even for these new trucks, you need to program them. You need to now set up new infrastructure. Whereas we build all these newer technologies, we've got to build the drones, we've got to build the robots that are going to do manufacturing.
With all due respect,
we've got to build the new factories because manufacturing is going to come back. We're going to be creating many jobs in the short term.
Right.
Long term, they begin to disappear. There's an opportunity over here because as this happens, the cost of everything drops. If we have doctors on our phones who can give us medical advice, we won't fall sick as often.
Right.
So
and by the way, Vivek, that's one of the reasons people are arguing why the Fed should slow down. But we have less than a minute because we had some breaking news and an exclusive interview. And I want to tap your brain in that minute on two things. A, the realization that people who have been working on assembly lines for 30 years, are you going to be able to retrofit their skills so that they can do it now, so that they can actually work on automated cars the same way they worked on a Chevy engine in 1985?
Well, some will, the majority won't, and that's what my book, Driving the Driverless Car, was about, saying, look, here's a good, here's a bad, here's why we have to be excited, here's why we have to worry. So it's everything at the same time. We can't stop it. No one can stop this.
That's what Joseph Schumpeter talked about, right? The great wealth and the changes, but the disruption. By the way, Arthur C. Clarke said this is good news. It will free us up from 99% of labor, and we could just go on to pursue loftier things like using 90% of our brain. Vivek, thank you very much.
Hey, China also has AI TV anchors, by the way, so you need to worry, my friend.
How do you know I'm not a robot? Thank you very much. See you soon.